Okay, so here are the parts for the Resto mod tripod for the Zeiss telescope. I was lucky that this came with the scope when I bought it. And it was just in the box, and it's part of the original azimuth control. So that is original, and I was able to make some other parts to go with that to make it more or less like the original, although it is slightly different. This is the extension for the original Zeiss tripod, and that came in with this telescope also. So that was handy to have that, because although I could duplicate that easily enough, it's nice to have the original. Anyway, I used that, and I was able to replicate this. This diameter is just slightly more than ½ an inch. I think it's 0.53. Anyway, so I was able to replicate that, carve that out of a hunk of steel, and I made the rest of this. This, of course, this is not original Zeiss. It's a casting, a modern casting, and so happens it fits perfectly. It's just exactly the right size for this thing, and it looks very similar to the original Zeiss. This also is not original Zeiss, but works perfectly. It's the right size. It'll fit in the box. I'll show you pictures. Slides out very much like this. It is a vintage tripod leg. I've got 3 of them, and I painted them up black so they look compatible, and they look quite well. They work quite well, and they look great. So I was able to manufacture some things, some parts and components here to make this work similar to a Zeiss, the Altaz on the Zeiss. On the Zeiss, the Altaz goes with the top of the tripod, and on the original Zeiss, it's more or less fixed here. I decided to, since I was going to go ahead and manufacture this anyway, make it so that it would be, you'd be able to rotate it. And that added a little bit of complexity, but not too much. So here are the pieces. First of all, made this brass piece, and I deliberately made it out of brass because it has to serve as a bearing also. And on the bottom, I had this. I didn't make this. I had this, and it was just fortuitous. I said, well, that'll fit very nicely. It looks appropriate, and it'll go right on there. This is what is going to be used to tighten the thing down. So you'll be able to rotate it and set it wherever you want, and then this will tighten it down. It'll go under the on the bottom of the tripod head. So that goes like that. This, of course, goes in through here. There's the slow motion control. I had to manufacture this. This I carved out of some aluminum, and it was quite a bit of work to carve that out and then to file it down, shape it, sand it up, and all that, make it look appropriate. This goes on here like that. Oh, first this goes on here, and let's put a couple of screws in there. So this is now going to be the azimuth slow motion. So you can see how that works. That goes on there. And now when I loosen this, you can move it around and set it wherever you want, and then you can tighten it up down on the bottom and lock it down. Okay, so that's how that thing works. This thing, of course, I designed this to fit with that, and I even designed it to give it a little bit of squiggle room, like so. This one goes in here. So that goes like that. Okay, got that all attached, and now you can see that I can loosen this up down here, and then I can rotate this to any angle I want, lock it down underneath here. That's unlike the Zeiss. The Zeiss had a permanent, it was in a permanent direction. A little bit limiting, so I don't want to claim that I've made an improvement on the Zeiss. You can improve on an original, but by the same token, I've changed it a little bit, made it slightly more functional. This thing here, this clamp, has to go like so. Okay, so that clamps on there. This goes here, and you can see now that when I move this thing, I'm going to move the the rest of the telescope is going to be sitting on that, either through the extension tube or the direct Altaz top from the Zeiss. So, but now I need a spring plunger over here. And, you know, I was thinking, what am I going to use for that? I didn't want to try to design a torsion spring, which is what the original Zeiss had. Looks very, very elegant, wonderful, but complicated and difficult to engineer. And I kind of know what I'm doing with one of these. So this is actually a punch for use with metalwork, for, you know, putting a prick punch in something where you're going to start to drill. Well, I took one of those apart. These are cheap. That was Harbor Freight, $2, maybe even free on some of their deals. Anyway, I gutted one of those things and reversed it, and this is the little plunger that normally would go inside. And I cut off the tip. Had to grind it off because that's hardened steel. Anyway, it's got the spring inside there. And then I threaded this like so, and now it will serve as my spring plunger. I can even adjust the tension on the spring plunger. With this device, it adjusts the tension of the spring inside there. No big deal. Anyway, the main thing is I think this is going to be about the right amount of tension. It's pretty good and stiff there. So I've got plenty of tension there, and I think that's going to work just great. A couple other things here. I haven't shown you what the bearing looks like. This on the underneath here, a bearing. It was really fairly unnecessary to put a bronze bearing. It's already brass in there. But what the heck. So, and then this goes on here. This was a fun little project. As I say, it's not exactly, it has the same basic functionality as the original. And I hope that the appearance matches the original pretty well. I think it does. I think this gloss black paint really looks good. Looks like it fits with the Zeiss perfectly. Okay, so now I have my device. It's all set up. I've got a little Altaz. Put this part in here. And there's my Altaz. And of course there's an extension. I have the extension cable that goes on there as well, so everything is good. This is going to be functionally pretty much the same as the original. I even did my best to sort of replicate. I spent a lot of money. These are like, that wing nut costs like $2, $3, something like that. Anyway, it's a special wing nut, and I painted it all up and everything. So anyway, this should match the appearance of the original pretty darn well. We'll see. I'll show you pictures, of course.